Hello and welcome to episode 85 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick, and with me this afternoon I have Club Chairman John Griffiths, Club Manager Nick Wright, and the member of the management team responsible for section development, Jonathan Griffin. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Guy.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Guy.
So it seems like ages since we've done a round table. It was actually only the National Alfa Day preview, but that was a couple of months ago now. So a lot of things to talk about, but we should probably start with National Alfa Day because it was quite an event, wasn't it?
Certainly was, and building on an incredible one at Bicester in 21, we wondered if we could match that, but we certainly did. And I think everything we'd hoped would happen, like good weather, certainly did, and the numbers certainly poured in. If anything, it was a little bit higher than the year before, wasn't it, Nick?
Was indeed, yeah. There was about 2,300, including children.
Yeah, I think one of the key bits was the movement at the event was brilliant. The reorganised track parades.
About
superb.
6 times the pace of the previous year.
They were, yeah, they were. And I think having former club chairman Ed McDonough involved with Mike Stark, who's a racing driver, well, they're both race drivers of old, certainly helped that. But the 50 limit was kind of adhered to.
I've never seen a Series 4 Spider corner and its door handles before.
Oh, no. And he did it all afternoon. Yeah. No, that was brilliant. But that engaged well over 300 people from the 2,000 at the event on those, plus passengers, I think, in taking part in that during the day. And it's great for the spectators in general to watch the cars going by. I heard lots of positive feedback about how people enjoyed seeing the classics taking the corners in particular. It's not racing speeds, but it's road speeds and great to see. And to take part in was an absolute hoot. I absolutely loved it. And I don't have any rear courses left at all now on my quadrifolio, but it was brilliant fun.
So it was an expensive day for you?
Yeah.
Although they were getting to the end of their life anyway.
They certainly were, yes, but new one's on the way. But yeah, I think everything worked as we'd hoped with certainly the feedback from families was brilliant, and we always want to do that at National Day. So the addition of the push-along carts to the pile of other things like the kiddie carts, face painting, the land train always goes down brilliantly, really helped. And, we've got multiple simulators there for kids of all ages. It was just super, really, wasn't it?
As I often do, I've greeted a lot of the drivers coming into the historic area, and there were a lot of old faces, but I was really pleasantly surprised to see how many new people there were, people who'd heard about the great events of the last couple of years and made a special effort to come from further away, including a very engaging couple from Belgium who'd really monstered a road trip across the channel to come up specially, and a chap from France as well. So it was a good mix of cars and people, and everybody was enjoying it. We were blessed by the weather, I think.
As well as the new things, the innovations like the track parades, it was nice to see some of the things we've had in years gone by, but not so much for the last couple of years. So all the stall holders with old 75 rear light clusters and front grills and things that I remember from the Stanford Hall days, but we haven't had for quite a while now.
No, there was quite a bit of that too, wasn't there? And of course, as well as the old stuff, we've got the support from Unity dealership and Alfa UK, and brilliant to have Julie David along, the Alfa MD for the UK, although we gather she's moving on at the end of the year, but she thoroughly enjoyed it, I know, and it was great to speak to her on the mic.
Well, I think you think of the size of Stellantis and Alfa being a big brand with thousands of vehicles produced a year, but the UK team's actually quite small. And it wasn't just Julie. I think we had 4 people from the Alfa management team along at the event, which is kind of a third of the UK team attending the event, which is incredible.
Yeah. It's encouraging that they approached us to come as well, rather than us begging them to come along.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, loads of positive feedback from them. There really was. It was quite funny, actually, because, of course, we were celebrating 100 years of Quadrifolio, and Julie arrived in her Stelvio Quadrifolio, and I spotted her, so I was able to immediately go and say hello. But she spoke to her team, pointing at the 65 or so Giulia and Stelvio quads lined up, saying, "Are they all club members' cars?" And they went, "Yes," which was great. It really opened a few people's eyes, put it that way, as to the scale of the club in general. And it's not just the classics.
Exactly. So, I think that was really powerful message for them. Yeah. Any other highlights from NAD?
I must say, looking back, because I was incredibly busy in the show zone, I didn't get to go around everywhere, but I thoroughly enjoyed the drone footage that was created. And I know that was by you guys, so we shouldn't big you up too much, but it really added something. I think the bits where it flew at kind of 8 foot above the ground, just above head height, was really good. So I do encourage anyone who's not seen it, go to the AROC YouTube channel and immerse yourself. It's really good fun.
That was a lot easier to film on the airfield side than it was in the technical area.
I bet dodging trees and
too many damn trees in the in the technical area, but it was good fun finding the route through and watching people's reaction as it came round. Actually, was quite good fun as well.
Yeah, there's a few
trying to work out where the pilot was.
Yeah, there were a few snippets you can see of people waving to it at the least, and then
the more times I filmed the land train, the more waves I got.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre because it feels like that would only happen if it was the same people on the train, but obviously word gets round.
Yeah, I think seeing the racing cars there was great, and Andy got the guys across from the Alfa Championship, and it was brilliant seeing that dozen or so racing cars and doing their parade laps, which were permitted to go a little bit quicker than us mere mortals in our road cars, but they were a highlight for me. Oh, I must say as well, the quality of the entries in the show and shine and the concourse was as high as ever. Just some amazing cars there in the middle. I did get to just walk through that area quickly, but of course we get the winners into the circle at the end, and it's good fun to look at those. And again, that comes out in some of the drone footage too, where you were flying directly on top of them, Guy. But I enjoyed that.
So that was a busy day. Nick, that was, I don't know if it was the start or part way through an incredibly busy period for you in the van, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yes. It was. That was number 2. We started with Festival Italia, Brands Hatch the weekend before, which was a busy day as usual down there. National Alfa,
another sweltering hot day at Festival Italia.
It was, and we got a very good sign-up of take-up on new members as well down there, which is always good, helps pay for the diesel to get home.
Yeah.
So National Alfa Day was that weekend. The following Thursday, the van was off to the Silverstone Festival, what was the Silverstone Classic.
It was less sweltering.
Well, the first day was, when I was setting up was hot, of course, when I'm trying doing all the manual work, it was hot, and then when you're standing around, it goes cold. But yeah, that was a good weekend again. So Alfa UK were there doing test drives in the Tonale and things, so that went down well. Then we had Southern Alfa Day at the historic dockyard at Chatham, which you were at as well, Guy.
I was.
That was good. It was Paul Newbury's first go at organising a big event like that, and that went down very well.
I think we should let him do another one.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
From the feedback, yes.
Yeah, it's not his turn for a few years.
No.
But then the weekend after that was Northern Alfa Day at Lotherton Hall in Yorkshire, which again they made it a little bit different from last year up there, but that was a good day, and the weather held out. It was a terrible forecast again, but it was dry all day, I think, up there again.
The sun just follows the van up the...
It does, indeed.
The M1.
And the weekend after that was Southwest Alfa Day, then at the Haynes Motor Museum, which was going swimmingly until we started to pack up, and it poured with rain.
Yeah.
Everything in the van was absolutely soaked.
How often does that happen as well, Nick? Gosh, you get through the day just to the end.
Yeah, it's once a year, I guess. Yeah.
We did an early podcast, didn't we? In the van at Mitcar.
Yeah,
it had been lovely all day, and then as soon as we started packing up,
during the awards, as I remember. Yeah.
My neighbours think I'm bonkers on a Monday morning. The garden full of AROC gazebos and flags and high-vis jackets,
drip drying. Yeah.
That was good. So that was Southwest Alfa Day was good, and that was the first major event for the new Devon section down there. Again, that went very well. It's very popular.
How did the new team do there, Nick? How did the new team do in Devon?
They did very well, yeah. They did all ran very smoothly. So they hardly needed me at all, I'd say. So that's good. Good. So.
We'll talk about some of the new section and registrar appointments later on. But back to Mitcar, because we just mentioned Mitcar. That's the next event a week away.
That's right.
As we record this.
Yeah, we're back to Burley House near Stamford for Mitcar this year, Midlands Italian Car Day, to give it its full name. The first Mitcar was back in 2001, so it's over 20 years now, but the East Midlands section, we've been running it ever since, and it's just keeps a really good number of people coming along, and it's an opportunity for a number of AROC members to bring along their other Italian cars too, which is quite fun, and also really good to keep good pals with the other Italian car clubs. We've gone back to Burley. AROC was at Burley last April 22 for Spring Alfa Day. The feedback from the day and from a survey we did was fantastic from the members. They just loved it. I think it was helped by us having a dazzlingly bright blue day in April, but fingers crossed for next weekend and the weather. But Mick Carr was first there back in 2009. I remember it really well. The Fiat 500 had just come out, so there were people with the brightly coloured new 500s and the Mito as well. Burley is a lovely venue. We're in the Deer Park. We're going to change it around so it doesn't feel exactly the same to Alfa owners as did Spring Alfa Day last year. So the layout will be different. It's just £12 a car. That entitles all occupants entry to the show and around the gardens and into the orangery and restaurant facilities. And you can show your event programme or your ticket to the desk at Burley to get 2-for-1 admission for adults. So that's all included. And the house and gardens are just superb. I had some great feedback last year, again, from members who'd late in the day gone into the house, and they were delighted that they spent the money to do that because it's just magnificent in there. It really is. So it should be a great show all round, really. We've sold well over 200 tickets already. That's cars, not people. So it should be a great big event. And I would encourage people to come along and make it a proper kind of end-of-year outdoor celebration, roughly in the middle of the country, so nearly A1. So,
and if you can put the sun in the back of the van and take it up there, Nick, because I'll be going in the Spider, so
yeah,
good weather would be appreciated.
That'll take the van over 3,000 miles in its little recent tour, so that'd be good.
Yeah.
So,
That's
very
brilliant.
Well
It's certainly
done,
getting its use, but you've got air conditioning now as well for when the sun does come out. So.
Indeed, yes, indeed.
Yeah, so Mick Carr, we're very much looking forward to it again this year. I'm getting some word of some very nice cars being brought out as well. As hopefully we'll get this continuation of a bit of an Indian summer into early autumn. Looking forward to it.
So that's really our penultimate big club event of the year, isn't it? We've got the NEC Classic Car Show in November,
right.
And then you're finally done and can have a rest, Nick. But in between the two, a couple of weeks after Mick Carr, we're all getting together in Coventry. So there's every other year until quite recently, we did either a Section Secretaries meeting or a model registrars meeting. So there was one every year, but it was one or other every year. And last year, for the first time, we had all of the Section Secretaries and registrars together, which we're going to do again this year. And that's a really important event for the club, isn't it?
It sure is. And we've also coupled it with the club's biannual general meeting. So it's like getting a captive audience of very interested members too. So, you're killing three birds with one stone, as it were. Not the best analogy, but it's great to get a good gathering of people together that are interested. So we'll be doing that. And I must say, although it's a similar venue to the one we used 2 years ago, we've got a great many new faces coming along.
We do. On the section secretary's side, there's been quite a few changes in the last year or so. There is a very new section secretary, Phil Andrew, in Derbyshire, just taken over. Very enthusiastic, so looking forward to meeting him in person on the day. In the Cotswolds, we have John Pestel, who lives towards Gloucester Way, who has established a second meeting in the Cotswolds to engage with members in a wider, far-flung parts of the section. And other people. Paul Dawson in London, I'm looking forward to meeting. London's so big, it's quite difficult to engage everybody in London, but we're hoping to have some plans to address that.
Yeah.
We mentioned Devon and Southwest Alfa Day, and the Devon guys are very enthusiastic. Andy Hayes is the section secretary there. So again, it'd be nice to meet him face to face. Sue Carrington is an old hand in the Alfa Club. She's married to Ken, and she's taken over the running of the Essex section, but she doesn't need much guidance because the club is sort of ingrained into her life, I would say, over many years. West Mids, Fraser Davis, and in Hereford and Worcester, Sophie King, who's also engaged with the Ragazzi, the newly formed Ragazzi section, which you know more about, Guy.
Yeah, and of course this will be the first of these meetings that we've had Ragazzi and Alfa Female at, so it'll be nice to have them engaged in the process.
Yeah.
And some new model registrars as well. I think we've got Nathan Mahoney's taken over the GT registrar. I, for my sins, am the new joint Tonale registrar along with David Bushell. I'm still looking after the 939 Spider, but I'm looking for a co-registrar for that. If anybody's interested, do get in touch. And Oliver Yarrow, who was previously the 156 registrar and took a little break, is now back in role looking after that. So for people who haven't come along, which is most of our members, it's a pretty intensive weekend where it's a chance for all of the people who run the local, and in the case of registers, national but specialised bits of the club, to exchange ideas and to give feedback to the management team about the support they need and ideas they have for developing the club.
Yeah. And it's an active working thing as well. So we've got the club spent quite a bit of, the management team of the club has spent quite a bit of time focusing on the direction for the club in the coming years. There's so many challenges out there in the motoring world. We know that there's interest in classic cars and there's real growth in that interest. So we can focus on that side as well as the more modern ones. But obviously the club wants to appeal to an owner of any Alfa Romeo, brand new, EV, whatever, as well as the classic. So, it's a very broad church from that respect, but there's lots of challenges that are faced. We want to ensure that the club's engaging properly on all fronts, that there's exciting things for people to do, that it's supporting members in a host of ways, and getting heads together is great. And so that we're going to have mini workshops, breakout groups, you name it, to drive various things forward. So it's not just a bunch of directors saying do this, do that. It needs to be a collective thing, and we want to build that enthusiasm to work well as a bigger team.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it again. I think one of the key themes we're going to have is among the challenges is there's a declining number of Alfas on the road to start with. It's dropped in just a couple of years. It's dropped by another 5 or 6%. So we're now looking at about 95,000 Alfas left, including 20% of those virtually being on Sawn. So that's quite a decline from the end of 2020 when there was about 103,000. So, there's a declining number of models out there. The sales haven't quite picked up yet with the new Tonale. We've got the new Baby coming out next year and promises of many new models after that and refreshed models. So, there is jam tomorrow, but the community of Alfas out there is small. And the great thing is the club's still been growing. 2 years ago, we were at 3,700 members. We're now at pushing 4,500, which is due to a host of different initiatives and engagements. But we believe we can make that even bigger. If people want to retain their classics and keep things going against challenging legislation of all kinds, for example, then we need to be offering giving a convincing offering to people who want to become a member of the club. So there's a host of things that we're going to be covering.
And you mentioned the general meeting, John, as well.
Yeah.
There's an email will have gone out to all members on Friday last week with details that all members are welcome to join us, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're doing it online coverage as well this year for the first time. So
we will be, but people do need to sign up to take part in that. So we're
indeed,
not kind of broadcast to the world. It needs to be for our members. Yeah,
but there's a form within the email, or if you want to get a copy, just email me and we can drop that through to you, no problem at all.
Great.
And if anybody does have any ideas or suggestions, obviously we'll have section secretaries and registrars there as your representatives. But if you have ideas about things that sections or registers could be doing better or differently, or in addition to what they do today, either talk to your section secretary or registrar before the meeting and they can bring those ideas with them, or drop me an email at the magazine address. Or
we have a continual churn of membership. We're one of the better car clubs for leavers versus joiners at about 17% per annum, but we would love to hang on to those joiners and make sure they stay a member for many years. Now, we do know from various surveys and directly asking people, the main reason people leave the club is because they've sold their Alfa. Fair enough. There's little you can do about that. But we are very interested in the retention side as well as just attracting new people in.
Yeah, and I mean, we've always said we're a club for owners and enthusiasts. And I know we do have people who are currently without an Alfa, but know they'll get one and another one at some point. And I think we've got a letter in the magazine this month from somebody who's joined the club but hasn't yet got a car.
And
wanted to join the community before they made a decision on the car car they had. So not having an Alfa is not necessarily a reason to leave the club.
That's actually a very logical way to buy a car, is to join the club first, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a good investment.
Many get sold on word of mouth or
Indeed,
through sections even. It's frequently happened in the one I look after in the East Midlands.
Any particular challenges you think from a section perspective, Jonathan, given that's your management team responsibility?
Yes, my responsibility is development of sections for the AROC. And so what typically happens is that, on a day-to-day basis, if there are some challenges in a section, especially if people leave, sort of officials of a section, maybe a secretary, then I will work with Nick to try and find replacements if there's difficulty in finding volunteers in a section. And we have been quite successful in just raising enthusiasm in a number of sections over the last 2 or 3 years, and encouraging people to take ownership of their own section, because after all, it is the members in a section that run events for a local section, rather than expecting people at a sort of higher level in the club to tell sections what to do. It's in your own hands, and any member in a section can put their hand up and say, wouldn't it be great if we could organise this sort of event, and make suggestions. So I would encourage any member who has an idea for an event, talk to your section secretary, because so often you might have some special information about a location, a venue, or something that's going on that would be of interest to the wider membership. The other thing I would say is that quite a lot of sections could do with a little bit more help being given to the section secretary. Some people like to take on everything themselves and juggle all the balls in the air at the same time. But it's much better if there's a little bit of sharing around. So if you feel you could help with social media, taking photos of events, all that sort of thing is fantastic for the club, or the social media accounts, just to keep people informed and engaged with the activities of the club.
Yeah, that engagement side is so critical, isn't it? And I've been running the East Midlands event with a great little team for over 20 years, but in the past I have set up what we thought were going to be really good events, and then nobody's turned up. And it's you feel very deflated, but there's ways around that of encouraging people to attend things, but you've got to get that involvement at other things. So for new events, people will come along. It's a difficult challenge. There's no easy answer to it.
Yeah. I think also there are almost two slices of members in a section. There are those who are able to come to a regular monthly meeting in the evening, and there are those who, for whatever reason of work or distance, find it a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
So having some events during the year that appeal to the members who can't make a regular evening meeting is such a good idea, and it's been very successful. I mean, in Kent and East Sussex had a sort of regular, as they will know, they've had regular successful sort of fish and chip shop or cafe meets, and many other sections have something similar, and that's a great way to engage as many people as possible in a section.
Brilliant. We talked about all the big meetings. There's a couple of little ones around as well, and one more big one, which we'll come to in a minute, but there's a bit of a gathering at Silverstone, I understand, Nick.
There is at the Silverstone Museum on the 14th of October. There's a registrar meeting, which is quite unusual for the club to do things like that. It's obviously geographically very challenging. But Dave Hart and Gary Fisher having a meeting for the 916 register there. They've got over 40 cars going already, which is absolutely brilliant for a first event. And I've been told there's strictly no vans allowed, so I've got to go home with Spider, which is brilliant.
You're taking the Spider, great.
Yeah.
So if I want to go to that, I've got to buy a GTV or a Spider.
You have, I'm afraid, or you can come with me.
Brilliant. I might take you up on that.
Yeah.
That's great, because as we know from National Alfa Day, 916s are incredibly popular in club members' hands. One of the biggest models in terms of membership. Brilliant.
And the other event that we mentioned briefly in passing on the way through was the classic motor show at the NEC. Are we ready to reveal any of our super secret plans for the NEC yet?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. It's all club members' cars again in the premium hall number 1. And the theme this year is 100 years of quadrifolio. So we have got some lovely cars lined up already of different model types, spanning many decades. But I'm going to keep it secret as to who's exactly coming. But the newest cars are 2021 edition anyway, and the oldest goes way back in time. So we should have some lovely cars there. Come to Hall 1. There is a club member discount code available that's going to be in the October magazine, and I think is on the club members forum already. So you'll get a couple of quid off across the weekend. So that's let me get my dates right. It's I sometimes quote the setup day date, but it's not. The show's open from Friday the 10th to Sunday the 12th of November. Absolutely brilliant event if you've not been before. There's something like 3,000 cars on display across all of the halls that makes up the area of about 18 football pitches. So it is gigantic. Lots of classic cars for sale. There's normally the odd Alfa up for sale too over in the Silverstone auction, for example. You've got various stages that are hosting interviews. You've got the likes of Mike Brewer and other motoring TV celebrities who are always there. We often bump into people like Fuzz Townsend and Tim off of Car SOS and so on.
And Enstead joined us on the stand. Was that last year or the year before? I can't remember.
Yeah, year before, but I think he was there in passing, and we bumped into Richard Hammond last year. So all sorts, all different sizes and shapes of celebrity.
Funnily enough, the first time I met John Bentley off the Gadget Show,
yeah, he was there.
Was at the NEC, which was how we got the SZ feature.
Oh yeah,
that we ran on the Gadget Show a couple of years ago. I met him again yesterday at the SMMT Regional Test Day, and he was saying that he's still hankering after an SZ.
We did have Kevin McLeod's car on the stand a few years ago.
We did, yeah.
That's interesting.
It's 1900 coupe Zagato, beautiful thing, wasn't it? I think he's since sold it, unfortunately. But
yes, I think, yeah.
But yeah, we won't have an SZ on the display this year, but possibly for next year when we're celebrating 60 years of the club, of course. So we're looking for a huge stand then. This year there'll be 8 Alfas in Hall 1, but you can't miss us. We're right next to the Lancaster Insurance stand this year, so the main event sponsors. So looking forward to it, as always.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that, gentlemen. I will see most of you at Midcar, all of you at Coventry, and hopefully we'll meet lots of other club members at those events and at the NEC. Thanks very much.
Indeed.
Thank you.
That's all we've got time for this month. We'll be back in 5 weeks' time on Sunday the 5th of November to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Quadrifolio with the 4th edition of our fact-filled, fish-free format, No Such Thing as a Brera Quadrifolio. Episode 86 will be available to download from 1:30 p.m. from YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else good podcasts are found. Until then, stay safe.